Welcome to Mortified, the Friendship Quest, a podcast where two long-distance friends bounce media recommendations, all in hopes the other will like it. I'm Aaron.
And I have no heart, or brain, or courage.
And this week, we leave Kansas and head off to meet the Wizard of Oz. Before we put him up. Remember, you can help us on Mortified the Legitimacy Quest by subscribing to us on YouTube, iTunes, or Spotify, or following us on Tumblr at MortifiedPod. Layla.
Aaron?
Mm-hmm.
I forgot the format of our show.
Okay. Layla.
Aaron.
What did you know about Woz before watching this movie? Because we're watching it because you haven't seen it before and Wicked's coming out.
That's true. I knew that the Dorothy opening the door to Oz, I knew that that was a very practical color change where they literally painted everything sepia and used a body double and then opened it to full color. It was beautiful. I knew there was a dog in the movie. I knew about the Wicked Witch of the East and the slippers. That's kind of it.
Okay. And you have seen Wicked, to be clear.
I've seen Wicked on stage. I'm very familiar with the show. Mm-hmm. The movie is not yet out at the time of recording.
Right. So that's an interesting place to start with The Wizard of Oz. Especially, well, I think probably what impacted it is that, you know, this is a movie that, like, American kids get shown. But like, there's no reason to show this to somebody who grew up in Eastern Europe, right? Like, no. You know, it's not an incredible show, IMO. It's completely fine. I think it was great for the time, but like, this doesn't seem like something that, you know, a kid from anywhere else but America would get shown. And even now, like, you know, I don't know that I would show this to my children.
I feel like my equivalent of this was the 1958, mid-50s, the 1950s Snow Queen. I feel like that's the one a lot of the post-Soviet kids watch. Otherwise, we had like a kind of SNL for children type thing, Yaralash, that we always used to watch. I think it's still going. So yeah, that's the Eastern European, or the Russian experience, I suppose.
SNL for kids, I'm gonna have to think about that for a long time. I don't know if I approve of that. I don't know if that should be allowed.
It's a sketch show for kids by kids. It was, you know, I remember liking it,
but I'm
like sure it doesn't hold up.
Based.
No.
Okay, that's all right.
It's like goof-ass sketch. But, I mean, remember, this is our version of Tom and Jerry. Numpagadi is about a rabbit and a chain-smoking wolf. So.
Listen, y'all are just built different.
Built sad.
Built sadder.
Built with a high suicide rate due to generational trauma and a high rate of alcoholism.
Woohoo. We're starting off on a high note here. Yeah.
You could tell this one was recorded after the election.
If our Hot Ones episode seemed overly happy, this one will seem exactly about as happy as we should.
Oh yeah, two little soft-bellied lip cucks just weeping our liberal tears.
Listen, we're in our blue strongholds. J.B. Pritzker said he'll fight Donald Trump one-on-one, so I'm all right.
Hell yeah. Kathy Hochul's useless, so I don't know about that.
Listen, you can't win them all.
Can't win them all.
Maybe Eric Adams will come back to save you.
Eric Adams, welcome to the resistance. All right, we're losing it. Let's go.
What were your overall thoughts on this movie before we get into the plot?
Was completely fine. I
tracks.
liked the first act a lot. The second act lost me. The third act kind of got me back. Honestly, my favorite part of it, and we'll talk about this in detail, were just the practicals.
Right.
The costumes, the effect, great looking movie.
100%. Yeah. I think that's my biggest takeaway as well, going back to revisit it after probably 10, 15 years since I've seen it last. Was like, oh yeah, this movie looks incredible, despite the fact that it was filmed released in 1939. So, shout outs.
That's the thing, right? Is when you have movies that old, first of all, film is expensive. Processing film is really expensive. So you did not have a lot of takes. You had to know what you were doing in terms of lighting and in terms of composition. And then because the nature of film is that it captures like a pretty rich depth of contrast if you light your scenes right. So like, yeah, old movies kind of have to look great to stand the test of time because they relied on like the expertise of these filmmakers, because they didn't have VFX, they didn't have a bunch of the modern tooling that we have now. They couldn't just up the contrast. They had to light their scenes good.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no. And we'll talk about specific effects here in a second, but yeah, without further ado, we'll get into the plot. I think I'll do this one, and if you want to chime in,
take it away.
It's a pretty straightforward plot. Dorothy Gale is a young girl who lives on a farm in Kansas. I would say this is probably contemporary to the time it was filmed, so 1930s-ish. She is in trouble with her neighbor, Almira Gulch, who seems to own most of the county that they live in. Basically, she let Toto get into her garden. Toto is her little... What kind of dog is Toto? Like a Schnauzer?
He looks like a little Shih Tzu mix. He looks like friend... He honestly reminds me of friend of the show Marty's dog Myrtle.
Yes, you're right. I think it is more of a Myrtle type. But yeah, basically she lets her dog bite Almira Gulch, and that is bad. You shouldn't... Listen, I have a lot of sympathy for Dorothy. You got to keep your dog on a leash, girl. You cannot just let your dog out and bite people. That's no good.
Yeah, hey, modern moral. Probably, honestly, the most important moral you can get from this movie is leash your fucking dog.
Mm-hmm.
As, you know, I'm not going to go on a whole thing about it. That's a thing that's making me mad presently, just based on the apartment complex that I live in and my neighbors.
Fair enough.
But yeah, leash your dog, and maybe, I think her brothers, are those her brothers or cousins?
They're farmhands.
The farmhands were right. Maybe take a different path home if your dog keeps going after this lady.
Yeah, like Dorothy really comes off, and Julie Garland like looks like she's 14 here. She looks like an absolute child. So like it does really hit me how young Dorothy is in this movie. But yeah, like a lot of this is just like, I think literally every problem in this movie would be solved if Toto was just on a leash. Like, or she just like avoided her neighbor, right? And like that's not, a citizen's criticism here, but like,
no,
girl.
fuck it. That's our new territory. This is how we get closer to our dream of right-wing grifting for profit.
Yes, no, we're slowly drifting towards the outrage bait. Excellent.
There was something else that I just found Dorothy kind of unsympathetic in this first act. Like it got better, but she comes home to her aunt and uncle, and their incubator broke. Their little chicklets, right? They have to count all their chickens after they hatched. Mm-hmm. And Dorothy just keeps telling this inane story, and I'm like, girl, they're busy. This can wait till dinner. What?
Like, you grew up on a farm. This is all extremely hard work, right?
Yeah, I'm becoming old man coded, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so unfortunately, Dorothy did not have me in this first act. But Judy Garland, did you know Judy Garland's a good actress?
I couldn't really tell, but like, once I watched this movie again, I was like, oh yeah, she's actually kind of crushing it.
She's incredible. Like, no wonder she she had a really lucrative, really amazing career. I don't think I've gotten to see her on screen very often, but like even watching all the time she had to cry in this movie, I was like, god damn.
Yeah, she really went whole hog for it. So we get the first song in the movie, arguably the most famous song, "Somewhere Over the Rainbow." Mm-hmm. I broadly think all the songs in this are completely fine, but I do think Garland's performance here is very, very good.
Yes, and the dogs. Dog did a great job acting.
Yep. After that, Almira Gulch arrives at the farm, and basically she has like an order from the sheriff that says that she can take Toto to be euthanized, which is pretty dark. And
this is small town busybody ass behavior.
Right. I think that's a very believable beat where it's like, yeah, the mean old lady, you kind of pissed her off, and she goes and tries to kill your dog. Like, I think that 100% tracks. So yeah, immediately all the, kind of irritation I have with Dorothy evaporates, because this is a fucked up thing to do. And Auntie M is like, well, if she has an order from the sheriff, like, we can't really go against the law here, which, again, sympathetic. But yeah, they surrender Toto, and Gulch puts Toto in like the basket on her bicycle. And then there's this like really great line where, after Dorothy runs out, M is like, Almira Gulch, I wanted to say, what I thought of you for the last 30 years. And now being right in front of you, because I'm a Christian woman, I can't say it. One
of the top 5 lines of the movie. Absolutely.
Yeah. Very funny. And then like, she also leaves, and then it's just her and Henry, the uncle, in the room, and Uncle Henry just kind of puts his head back. He's like, not saying nothing, but like grinning, which is very good. Gulch leaves, takes Toto, immediately loses him because he's a dog in a basket. Nobody has any dog securing sense in this film. Toto immediately escapes and returns to Dorothy, and then Dorothy's like, all right, well, there's only one thing to do. I have to run away from home. And she does.
I respect this.
Yeah. Listen, if you are a teenager and you have a big emotion, there's only one thing you can do, and it's leave your family. And that's an endorsement from me, Aaron Voigt. That's good advice, and you should follow it. To any of the teens listening.
Co-signed.
Lawyers do not listen.
Lawyers cover your ears.
Obviously that's a joke. But while Dorothy is, running away, she meets Professor Marvel. How do you feel about Professor Marvel, Layla?
Honestly, that's my fallback career plan. If games doesn't work out for me, it's like, number 1 is crime. Number 2, trophy wifism. Number 3, whatever Professor Marvel's got going on.
Yeah, I mean, like, okay. I play a lot of Rockstar games to my great shame. And some of my favorite Rockstar games are the Red Dead series. And there's a lot of this type of character in the Old West, which is like a man who claims to have been to the quote Orient, right? And like has all sorts of like mystical powers. And like, while I think that there's a lot of racism and racist shit tied up in that, I do think that I like the character of the charlatan who is like trying to hoodwink local, Americans by claiming to have some mystic power from foreign lands. I kind of actually love that character archetype despite how compromised it is.
Because, you and I are full of billion-dollar ideas. I would love to see a charlatan in this era, but instead of like the quote-unquote Orient, what if he gets his powers from like Montana?
Say more.
I don't know, because people didn't travel interstate a whole lot in the 30s. I think if you're a charlatan scamming in Georgia, I think you could make some wild shit up about Montana and people would believe you. Okay,
so in real life, the thing that happens there is they say they got their wisdom from the Native Americans, which we want to avoid. But like, I don't know, because like there's a part of me that's like, listen, I lived in Indiana for 10 years, and they're like, no, we know about people from Ohio and here in Indiana. They're all a bunch of idiots, which is of course not true. Shout outs to Ohio.
No, but fuck like, Ohio. Ohio hater. Rise up.
Actually, Ohio, you let us down recently, so I'm not thrilled with you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Ohio, the blue wall, Pennsylvania. I don't know what the fuck is going on in Pennsylvania. I'm mad at all y'all,
come on, y'all. Anyway, I do think that's an interesting premise to be like, yeah, no, out in Montana, the big sky country, we're doing something different out here. Y'all got to learn about our sky science. I think there's something to that. I'll think about this.
You know what? I do just realize the problem with my own premise, which is that it could go in one of two directions. Direction A is Mormonism and direction B is Scientology.
Not the worst direction to take. I mean, listen, bad ideologies, fun premise.
Fun. We'll think about it. We'll think about it. We'll ponder it.
Anyway, Dorothy meets Professor Marvel, and he's like, oh well, he like sees this girl, and like what I like about Professor Marvel is he's not immediately trying to take advantage of a young girl out on her own. He's like, I gotta get this kid back to her home.
Nice to animals, nice to children, scamming adults, ideal life.
Yes, he like lets Toto eat one of his hot dogs. And he's like, all right, kid, let me look into my crystal ball and I can tell your future. And he basically convinces Dorothy that like, oh, her aunt's worried sick about her, and then she better go home right away, otherwise her aunt is gonna be very ill. And she's like, oh, okay, well I gotta go. He does this by basically like telling her to close her eyes, then looking through her stuff, and then he finds a photograph. He's like, oh, okay, that was easy, and then does his read. And then
cold reads, man.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it's a warm read.
This is an extremely warm read, I think.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, basically he convinces Dorothy to go back. And then once she does, she's also coming home in the middle of a tornado, which happens out in Kansas and the Midwest. Do you want to talk about the tornado? Because you found notes on how they did it, and it's really cool.
It looks fucking incredible, first of all. Second of all, they, to my understanding, tied a long-ass nylon sock, structured it with a bunch of chicken wire, and then created a $12,000 crane to wiggle it, and then, like, PAs were, like, air blowing dust up into the air to create the effect. It looks amazing.
Genuinely, it looks better than, like, anything I've seen in CGI. It's so cool. It's
Twisters
so good.
Who? Twisters who? Get a sock.
I'm shocked at how good that looked. You know, I also called that out in my notes, and I was like, I cannot believe that practical effects were so good for a period of time. Like, holy shit.
More puppets, more practicals. Like, we're not asking for a lot.
Yeah, and honestly, that sort of thing would be cheap to do now. Way cheaper than doing CGI. So, like, I don't know. Just a thought. Anyway, you know, they are trying to, you know, Dorothy is trying to get back, and everybody's already gone to the storm shelter. So she's, like, looking around for Auntie M, trying to find her because she believes she's sick. Dorothy, however, should probably know better, being that she lives in Kansas. She should probably have some better sense for storm safety. Immediately goes right in front of the window, which, as a tornado region liver, you know not to go near windows during a tornado. Now, the reason that you do that is because you're worried about glass breaking and shattering and, like, cutting you up. But here the window frame just fully comes out of the wall and smacks Dorothy in the head and knocks her the fuck out, which is also funny.
It's really good because they could have done the same thing with, like, the window is open and it's, like, falls on her, right?
Right.
Nope. Whole window.
Blam. And, you know, I mean, like, obviously, right, that reads a different way on screen, right? The purpose of that is to show, like, how fully Dorothy's been owned. But, like, I still think it's really funny just to watch this kid get smacked.
My experience of watching that scene, too, was just, like, I don't... So we get tornadoes very rarely out here in, like, Western New York, but we do get them occasionally, and you still know not to go near windows. And literally, I'm sitting there going, Dorothy, get away from that and before my brain can finish the word window, she gets smacked. I was like, well, what did I just say?
Yeah, exactly. You got to be careful, kids. But then she wakes up and she's still in the tornado, but her house is now, like, being lifted up into the air. And she's like, oh no. And then, like, a bunch of silly stuff happens, right? A cow flies outside the window. There's somebody taking a bath. There's somebody, like, in a canoe rowing. And then we see, what's her name? But yeah, basically she sees that the girl, the woman on the bicycle transform into a woman on a broomstick. And that's kind of the transition into Oz. And then, yeah, the house falls down. Dorothy says, oh, and she opens the door and we get that, like, incredible Technicolor shot. Yeah, I guess I don't know who's listening to this who wouldn't know about this bit, but, like, the first, 10, 15 minutes of the movie are in, like, a sepia tone. And then, like, the rest of the movie from here on out is in Technicolor, which is a style of, like, colorizing film. But yeah, do you have thoughts on that scene?
It worked on me. I was, because I knew about it, right? I was like, oh, I know there's a body double who's painted sepia, and, like, she opens the door and then Judy Garland steps in, and I knew that, and still watching the scene, I got, like, chills. I was like, ooh, what a delight. Can you imagine watching that on the big screen for the first time? Ooh. Yeah, no, I mean, like, this wasn't technically the first use of Technicolor, but I think it's absolutely the most well-known. And, like, it is just shocking to see the stark contrast. And, like, listen, I'm somebody who will, on occasion watch a movie from the era before color was widely used. It's a striking effect. It's really impressive to see how Technicolor, adds to a film. It just looks incredible. Yeah, absolutely. It's just, like, and that's what, it just dovetails with what, from our discussion from earlier, which is, like, the movie is fine, right? It's just, like, a kid's morality tale, but God, does it look good. And it really holds up. I don't know. It's really, it's just neat. It's a neat thing to watch.
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously the production of this movie was very compromised in the way they treated everybody involved, but, like, you got to respect how well well constructed and how much this stands the test of time, right? This was re-released as part of the 75th anniversary of the film in 2013, and apparently people went to go see that for some reason. So like that's pretty cool, I think.
Yeah. I agree.
Okay, so she is now in Oz. And she's immediately greeted by the Munchkins of Munchkinland. These are played by, a lot of people with dwarfism or little people. And they are very excited to see her. They sing a bunch of songs, including Ding Dong the Witch is Dead, which, famously played all across England and Ireland when Margaret Thatcher died. Shout outs, perhaps one day that song will play for us here in America. But like, there's how do you feel about this introduction to Munchkinland? Because I think there's a lot of songs
from I'm trying to think of when exactly it was. First of all, Glinda the Good Witch, fucking useless. Baller costume though. She comes down, love the gown. The moment Glinda the Good Witch gets in her bubble and floats away to when they finally get in, I think, to the Hall of the Wizard of Oz, I was bored out of my mind and half paying attention. And I think there's a coat that came out that is sold out and I wanted it and I was hunting for the coat for the entirety of that chunk of the movie.
I think that's fair, right? Because the next 20, 30 minutes of this are just assembling the team. Like you said, Glinda basically does nothing. She's just like, oh, hey, you killed this witch. There's a shot of the legs of the Wicked Witch of the East sticking out from under the house. They have this conversation with Dorothy. Dorothy gets the shoes. The Wicked Witch of the West shows up and, talks shit. But then she's just like, well, I'll kick your ass later, I guess, and leaves.
Glinda the Good Witch's contribution is come down in a bubble, slay, tell this little girl, oh yeah, the alive one, that one's even worse than the one that you killed. And also to get home, you have to follow the yellow brick road and go see the Wizard of Oz. Good luck.
Right. It's obviously the Wonderful Wizard of Oz is a Frank L. Baum book, right? So there's probably more shit in there, but like just to see how wicked, in our contemporary understanding of the story of Oz, like, expanded upon this, like truly Greg Maguire is working with nothing, creating like a whole other timeline. It's truly impressive, I think.
Yeah, I've never read the book and I don't intend to because I've heard from multiple people over the course of multiple years that there's too much piss happening in that book. But the musical is great. And at the end of this show, I would like to talk about our predictions for the movie and why it's 2 movies at the end of the show.
Okay, yes, very excited for that. Anyway, basically, right, Glinda does nothing but tells Dorothy to go on the yellow brick road. And then she's like, okay, I'm going to go and see the wizard because the wizard is apparently going to be able to get me back home to Kansas and save me from the witch. Mm-hmm. Dorothy follows the road and we get the assembly of the team. We get the Scarecrow, we get the Tin Man, we get the Cowardly Lion. They basically all have the same introduction, which is Dorothy finds them, helps them out a little bit. And then they're like, well, you're pretty cool, so I'm going to help escort you to the Emerald City. Any thoughts on these 3 scenes?
I don't remember what happened. Gone. I was looking for the Madewell X Alpha fucking whatever jacket that is sold out everywhere.
Very, very fair. I think the Scarecrow as a character is pretty charming. I think the Tin Man is fine. And I think the Cowardly Lion's the best character because he's from the Bronx for some reason.
Down. Cinema. He's a crybaby from the Bronx. And I'm so glad you also got the put him up. I want to bathe in that line delivery in the same way I got to show somebody yesterday for the first time the Megalopolis. So go back to the club. Those two lines live rent free in my head.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, I mean, like, the lion's interesting because, like, he basically, like, tries to rob them. He, like, jumps out at them from the side of the road and he's like, "Oh, you're trying to be smart, see? You're trying to get me with an axe, see?" And then, like, he almost eats Toto, and then Dorothy just kind of whacks him and he immediately falls to pieces, which is a really good bit. It's extremely good for what the character is trying to do.
It's so good. I love the costume. I love the prosthetic. I love the moving tail.
Yeah.
It's just I love a movie. You know what I mean? I love a prosthetic. I love a practical. I love a puppet. We must return.
Return. Yeah, listen, we're getting there here in the United States.
Yeah, it's time to return. Maybe if we go back in time, if we repeat the last century, maybe I'll just go make puppets.
Yeah, listen, that would be the dream. But basically, yeah, they get to the Emerald City. They have like a fun sequence where all of the people in the Emerald City give them a makeover.
Love that. Love the little bow on the lion.
The lion, yeah. There's a sequence where there's a horse that's changing colors, and Sierra told me that's because they did in fact have a bunch of different horses that they just dyed with Jello, Jello powder.
Now, is gelatin not made of, like, horse?
I mean...
Isn't that a little fucked up?
It's a little fucked up. It's definitely made of pig.
Yeah. Isn't it made of, like, bone marrows? I
don't know, but, like, I've heard that there is some component of animal in that.
Isn't that a little fucked?
It's a little fucked up. I don't know.
Well,
listen, my tolerance for caring about fucked up things has gone extremely down in the last week.
I mean, listen, that horse is long gone. F's in the chat.
Yeah.
As are the animals that presumably went into the Jello that died those horses. But I just couldn't. When I read your note about the Jello, I couldn't help but.
That's fair.
Pontificate.
It's an interesting read. On the self-cannibalizing nature of the Ozian Empire.
Well, there's also the asbestos snow.
Yes, yeah. There's
interesting techniques. Yeah.
Yeah, listen, it was the 30s. There's a lot of toxic exposure that everybody in this film had to just deal with. So, yeesh. Anyway, they meet the wizard. The wizard's interesting. He's just like kind of a head that yells. I thought it was interesting that like his head kept coming in and out of vision.
Yes.
I don't really know what effect that achieved. But yeah, I don't know. Any thoughts?
I think that if you come ask me for a favor, not you, because you're my friend, but like anybody and general broad you, I think if one is to come ask me for a favor, I also need pyrotechnics.
That's true. Yeah. I like that there's just like a big gout of flame half the time. That rules. But yeah, basically he's like, I'll give you the heart and the brain and the courage that you want, you triple dorks, and I'll get Dorothy back home. But you have to bring me the Wicked Witch of the West's broomstick. And they're like, won't we have to kill her for that? And he's like, not my problem. Get out. Which is also very good. And yeah, and then they go off to the evil castle.
Mm-hmm. That they do. I zoned back out here.
Yes, very good.
Pretty significantly.
I mean, like, I don't know. There's not a whole lot that happens here. There's a bit where they fight some flying monkeys. I mean, like, listen, as an RPG guy, I think there's a lot of interesting opportunities for like Ozian factions going on. Like there's like the Lollipop Guild, and then there's the like Emerald City. Like they have a whole like economy going on, and then there's like the two various factions that the witch leads, which are the like Western Vanguard that are like Mongol spearmen, weirdly, and then there's the flying monkeys, and like I like that from like a adventure design standpoint. I think that's fun to just have a bunch of weird guys and imagine what their political situations are like. As far as their use in the movie, it's just like for fun. It's just like kind of like here's a flying monkey guy, which captures Dorothy and Toto.
I'm so sad Metaphor ReFantasio didn't work for you, because there's nothing I want more than to discuss the politics of discriminating against cat boys with you.
Listen, I would love that. It's just that I don't have the 90 to 160 hours to play Metaphor.
I'm gonna finish it in about 65. I don't know where that estimate came from, but
I just know what my life is like.
I know what your life is like also, and that's okay. You can just live it through me.
Maybe I'll watch an 80-hour YouTube cutscene compilation. Toto escapes again because nobody can keep Toto down. Toto leads
Leash that dog.
Truly. Toto leads the trio to Dorothy, where she's being kept in like the witch's castle type deal.
Yeah.
There's a little chase sequence. Then they all get captured again. The witch briefly lights the scarecrow on fire. Dorothy tries to put the scarecrow out. She throws the bucket of water at him and completely misses and hits the witch. The water bubbles her to death. She melts and disappears. And then her army is like, oh, sick, we don't have to work for her anymore. And they give her the broomstick and they go back to Oz. Any thoughts on that sequence?
I like the use of a little elevator for the witch. There's twice she gets to use a little elevator, once for her appearance, and then for her melting. And it's just fun to know that a woman is descending and her cloak is like staying behind and she's just wiggling her arms going, I'm melting. Yeah. It's just a fun little visual for me.
It is. It's such a weird, I don't know if there is like a modern story construction. Like this movie predates Joseph Campbell, right? But like, it seems so strange to me that they wouldn't have set up the water thing earlier on. Like it's just sort of like, well, how do we get out of this? Water kills her. Even
as simple as if there was a fountain in Munchkinland and Glinda the Good Witch, her useless ass, just kept bringing Dorothy closer and closer to the fountain, and the Wicked Witch of the West just kept getting more nervous. That would have done it.
Right. Even in Wicked the musical, right? There's like a throwaway line where they're like, "Oh, I hear that she's so evil that pure water will melt her." Right? Yeah. Like it's just like a one line. Right. That's in like the beginning of the second act, which allows that to be paid off. It's just a strange story construction, and I know that this is like a movie that is ostensibly for children, like very, very working in that realm of fairy tales. But I don't know. I just thought it was weird that they didn't set that up. But yeah, basically they take the broomstick back to the wizard. He is like, wow, I didn't think you would pull that off. Can you come back tomorrow? I've got wizard shit to do. And that's when Toto tears down his curtain. They reveal a man pedaling a bicycle, and he's like, don't look at me. Look at the big spooky head. And they're like, oh, you're a fake. And he's like, well, kind of. But he reveals that he's also from Kansas and that he can take Dorothy back. He gets his balloon ready. They're all about to go back to Kansas. Then Toto gets out of the basket, and Dorothy's like,
that dog!
Dorothy chases after him. The wizard is like, I don't know how to fucking drive this thing, so he leaves without her. And then Glinda shows up at the very end, and she's like, oh yeah, actually, you could have always gone back because of the shoes. And Dorothy's like, oh, okay. Can you send me back now? She gets the magic words. There's no place like home. She clicks her heels and wakes up back in her bed in Kansas. All of the Technicolor drains away. And that's where the movie basically ends.
Gorsh, Aaron. You could have gone home all along, coming from the lady who was like, only evil people are ugly. Glinda, I got beef.
Yeah, listen, it's a bad look, but also I think that's why Wicked works so good, is because there's all these like this weird shit that's happening in the movie and presumably the original novel that between Maguire and Schwartz, The Wicked novel comes out in 95. The movie comes out the musical comes out in 03. Like, they have a lot of room to play with the ideas of this movie and be like, okay, there's some weird shit happening here. What if I extrapolated that and made it a whole thing? Like, that's why Glinda is such a, like, preppy bitch, basically, is because she kind of sucks here in the movie, and Schwartz and Maguire are like, okay, what if I just completely leaned into that?
Yeah, and I mean, it's funny because the musical is a story fundamentally about consequence and responsibility, and, like, who, how that gets doled out based on the perception of the masses. And it's really good and interesting, and it's layered, and it's legitimately just a very good musical, coming from a nothing source material. I mean, it's not nothing, but, like...
kind of nothing.
Kind of nothing, you know what I mean? The practicals were really good, but the story, if it wasn't so beautifully made, this would be a student film.
Right. I mean, like, that's the thing. Like, this highlights the power of aesthetics in storytelling. It's just like, if you kind of hit big, broad images, visuals, and emotions, that gets you a lot of the way there.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about, like, during The Lion has a random-ass song about being king in the jungle. They, like, smash a little pot to make a crown for him. That's cool. There's also, the whole thing takes place on a soundstage, and there are scenes where I legitimately could not tell where the soundstage ended and the matte painting began. Like, it's just like a beautifully crafted movie. But, like, if you put it on a stage, it would feel like a fourth grade play.
Right. And listen, in 8th grade, we did this musical at my local school. It was pretty bad. Not only because it was done by 8th graders, but the source material just isn't that good.
I watched... So, my friends, my like childhood good friend's little niece is still in high school, and me and him went to see the musical, and it was the high school that we used to go to, and it was Grease.
High school Grease is rough.
Aaron, high school Grease, they shouldn't be putting that musical on anymore.
I mean, I don't want to hear a 17-year-old say the word pussy wagon, certainly.
That's Grease too, baby.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
She's a real pussy wagon. Grease Lightning is Grease too, but the moral of Grease is change yourself for a man.
Yes, 100%. So
I'm like, I don't know about this, Chief.
Yeah, no, listen, bad moral, great musical. I am out.
Bops all around.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's just an interest. I'm glad that you got to see it because of this project. The project being Mortified. I think a lot of the utility of Mortified is forcing ourselves to engage with media gaps that we have in our understanding of key storytelling moments. So like I hope you find this useful, although like I think you're probably you probably could have gone your entire life without having seen The Wizard of Oz. It probably wouldn't have made a huge difference.
No, but I like the context, and it was really nice. Like, again, I really appreciated the craftsmanship of it so much. So it was really lovely in that sense. But I did spend half the runtime online shopping, so.
Yes, no, I was also on my phone during a lot of it because it was kind of boring, but that's okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you want to give me your pitch for why you think Wicked will be 2 musicals, or 2 movies, or why it is 2 movies?
So based on the trailers, because there's a new one that just came out, they're really featuring Fiyero, who played by, I'm blanking on the actor's name, but he's Anthony Bridgerton in Bridgerton. And that man, through Bridgerton, has proven he can play a dumbass hottie, which is Fiyero, right? I think there's gonna be some Fiyero expounding in movie 1 that I don't necessarily think we need, because he gets an 8-minute song, right? Dancing Through Life.
Yeah.
And that's good enough for me. I don't really need to know much more about our boy Fiyero, but I think people correctly understand that if Fiyero doesn't get a little bit more to do, the movie is pretty gay. Right? He's kind of the Raoul.
Yes, for Christine Daae and Meg Jerry.
Meg Jerry, yes, right? Like, he's kind of the Raoul. So, I mean, like, I love As Long As You're Mine, right? Beautiful love song. But the girls just have more to do.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's the opposite of your essay. You wrote it gay. It's you wrote it gay, but there's girls this time. Right when you don't give what?
Intentionally. You wrote it gay somewhat right. Maybe not intentionally, but you really gayed it up. By, I guess, not gendering your conflict. Much to think about.
I mean, I don't know, right? When you create a story that has two people in it that are the primary characters that are making choices, and you get interiority for one or both of them, and the majority of the time they spend interacting, right? Ugh, God, this is going to be a stupid pull, but on the latest, one of the latest Dropout Make Some Noise bits, there was like two comedians being like doing the prompt that was like, you know, two quote unquote straight friends, you know, like talking to each other before they come out, and like they like get like really close to each other's face and talk about how amazing they are. And like, I think that's what happens just like when you do stories, right? It's very easy to draw those emotional connections when there's only two people of roughly the same age, and they don't like have any other, you know, emotional, or, you know, energetic outlet. They just have to kind of unload on each other. And that creates a tension.
Yeah. I think I called the third person in that situation a pet rock, and I do stand by that. Fiyero is a little bit of a pet rock.
Right. And you know, so is Bach to some degree, but that Bach storyline gets complicated. We'll talk about that when we see Wicked.
Bach! Yeah, I was gonna say, Bach does do some shit.
Yeah, no, Bach's a really interesting character, IMO.
Yeah, maybe we'll get more Bach. Maybe we'll get more from the boys.
We'll see. You know, Wicked, the novel, again, it's been so long since I read it, and I was like a child when I read it, so like I didn't understand all of the piss shit. But like, there is a lot of weird politics happening in that book, so like maybe that's what they'll do. I don't know.
Maybe. We'll find out in a couple weeks when we inevitably go see Wicked.
November 22, running time 160 minutes. Man, this is gonna be a long movie.
Ooh,
100.
what is gonna?
Yeah, what is gonna happen? What the fuck is gonna happen in this movie? I don't know. It's fine.
Oh my god.
It's fine.
All right. We'll get real comfy.
Okay. Layla, now that you have seen the source material, you are a noted fan of the NeoWiz game's Lies of P, Souls-like role-playing game.
Correct. The art book is in my mailbox right now, and I am itching.
Now that you've seen The Wizard of Oz, and, you know, spoilers for Lies of P, I guess, the sequel or DLC to Lies of P will...
Sequel, baby.
Oh, full sequel. Excellent.
Full sequel.
Will be based in the land of Oz.
Yes.
What's your advice to
Aaron,
NeoWiz?
The last scene of Lies of P is some Kingdom Hearts 2 ass shit where there's a mysterious hooded figure on a train being like, now we gotta go get Dorothy. Summons, baby. I want to see summons. I want to summon the Tin Man. That's what I want to be doing. If you're going to go the Kingdom Hearts direction, give me summons. I need her shoes to do some fucked up shit. I need to be able to upgrade her shoes.
Oh, that's
what I need
call.
To be able to do. Yep. I need to be able to upgrade her shoes. And then, so Jiminy in Lies of P is like a Jiminy Cricket type construct, but is a construct. And
he's an AI. He's like Cortana in Halo.
And he's in a little lantern on his butt. If that is that contrivance, there's so many juicy, delicious things you could do with trapping the soul of the Wicked Witch of the East to be your like.
Yeah, Nessa Rose is just your evil Jiminy. It's just being like, "Fuck you! I hate your guts. Why did you drop a house on me?"
There could be some shit happening with the crystal. There's a recurring theme of crystal balls. There's so much deliciousness that you could have. And I want all of it.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Good. It's just good.
What like boss enemies do you want to see?
Well, Pinocchio got a kind of homoerotically charged boss in Romeo, the King of Puppets, who used to be his best friends. And can you imagine? This is so sad, NeoWiz. I don't know why you did this to me. But Pinocchio looks like Carlo, the boy he is based on. And can you imagine you are Romeo, you became the king of puppets, and you are so sad and you can't communicate with anybody because nobody can understand your fucked up puppet speak, and then your best friend who you thought was dead rolls in and you're like, Carlo, and he's like, no, and then he kills you?
Brutal.
Fucked up. And then he finds your sad letters. I think about Romeo all the time. What an arc.
Damn.
So I think Dorothy, maybe a friend from Kansas, maybe a friend from Kansas got corrupted. Maybe we give her a little homoerotically charged nemesis there. We'll certainly see some sort of flying monkey shit happening. Wicked Witch, we got the Wicked Witch, that's very obvious. Maybe some living flora, Remember that fucked up sunflower from Elden Ring?
Oh, God, but it's just the trees with the faces. I would have felt better about that sunflower if it had a face. I think I would have been like, this is just like Undertale Flowey. I hate your guts so much. That was the worst thing about that boss, is that it was just faceless and it kept beating my ass, and I was like, come on. I remember we tried to party up for it a bunch. I just ended up... A lot of Shadow of the Erdtree for me was trying to party up to beat a boss, and then using that as kind of a training ground to dodge, and then getting really fed up and then swing. Yeah. The hyperbolic time chamber, except instead of training with somebody, you're being like, okay, I'm going to watch that person get hit 100 times, and then I'm going to fight the boss with half health, and I'm going to own them.
Yeah, that's pretty much what happened. I want to see some trees. I want to see some flora. I want to see. And you know what I don't want to see is the fucking munchkins.
Yeah, I could do without the munchkins.
Yeah, maybe no munchkins. I'll take a sentient brick.
Now that's interesting. Like the yellow brick road comes to life
and fucks your shit up.
Huh. What do you imagine that boss... What does phase 2 of the Yellow Brick Road look like?
Just a big-ass brick construct,
Okay.
Maybe phase 1 has a little earthquake attack where it, rolls under your feet and shit. And then phase 2 just says, okay, fine, we'll do it the hard way. And then just all the paths you don't need to take coagulate into a brick motherfucker.
A brick Voltron, I see.
And then just... I think it does big fist, big fist attack, make you flat.
Yeah, I'm thinking of that thing in Tears of the Kingdom, those weird blocky guys. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, those fuckers.
Yeah, something like that.
Just like that.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be fun, because the cool mechanic with those is you have to find the little thing to make them all collapse.
Right.
And then we can go, it's a raining bricks. Hallelujah, it's a raining bricks. Amen.
Yeah. Very
losing
good.
my mind. Mind lost.
Listen, it's been a week.
That it has.
Anyway, Layla, when we are not giving the best consulting advice since Sweet Baby Inc., where can we be found on the internet?
You can find me at LEYLSES on Blue Sky and Tumblr. That's, all my Nietzsche books came in, so I'm gonna start working on my Xenosaga essay that I've been threatening for 2 years.
Very excited for that.
What about you?
If you want to make your own video essay, I just released a video on how I make my video essays. That's at AA Voigt on YouTube. I also released a video, if you like musicals, about Hades Town and some RPGs called Death of the Author and Metalepsis that are interested in narrative agency and stories. That's also at the YouTube channel. You can find me on my socials at Monster Factory Fanfic on Tumblr and AA Void on Blue Sky. Our theme song is Obsolete by Keshco from the album Filmmaker's Reference Kit Volume 2. You can find more of their music at keshco.bandcamp.com. Layla, how shall we close out this episode on an America Classic?
I'll get you, my pretty! Ha!
Perfect. We'll see you all next time.
Bye.